Hey guys, in this video we're going to go over understanding your responsibility on defense and making pre-play adjustments on defense as well. So to get started, we're going to pick an offensive play. We're going to single back wing and pick dive. And then on defense, we're going to go into a common base defense, which is just 3 for odd. I have some audibles set up. I'm going to start out in cover 2 man as the defense for our original play. And to start out with, understanding your responsibility on defense in the pass game is pretty simple. All you do is show your play and you can see, what you're supposed to be covering. Let's say you're Minkah Fitzpatrick, you're using him. You need to cover the deep half here. Or let's say you audible to, Tampa 2 and you are a linebacker. If you're Avery Williamson, you need to cover this vert hook area, which would be, right in here. Once you start getting an idea of what the offense is doing, though, and you feel comfortable with what your defense is, once you really start to elevate your game, you won't necessarily have to just cover this area. You'll be able to move around to wherever you see weaknesses in your defense or something that they've been trying to attack. Once you figure out that you have that area covered, you'll be able to not necessarily neglect that area, but just roam a little more freely. So pass coverage isn't too difficult to understand. Like I said, just check to see which zone you're in. One thing people do seem to have a bit of trouble with is stopping the run at times. And something that you can do to see what you need to do in the run game is show your play and press circle to check to see what your run fits are on runs to the right side, and press square to see what your run fits are on runs to the left side. One thing with this though, so let's say for example we are in cover 2 right now. A lot of people like to use the weak side linebackers, mostly because if it's a run to the right, your run fit is right in this gap. If it's, let's say, a stretch play or a zone to the right, they can't necessarily cut it back to right here, so you can never really over pursue as you go out here to the right. You can't really, you can't get too far out to the right on a stretch play from the backside linebacker. One problem though is if it's a run to the left side and you're supposed to fill this gap and you don't, that will then lead to either a cutback lane or maybe just not even a cutback lane. Maybe you over pursue or under pursue, and that just leaves the alleyway open for them to run through. One thing to understand is that these run fits are different in different kinds of defenses, and that's why I picked so many different defenses to audible to. So I'm going to audible back to cover 2 man. And you can see that on runs to the right, there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys in, run fits against 7 blockers. So the numbers are even. The defense really has to make a play to stop the run in a defense like this. When we audible to cover 1 robber, it changes a little bit because the safety that's in this 3-rec hook also has a run responsibility. So he comes up to fill in to help out in the run game, which puts the numbers back into the defense's favor in the run game. A defense that's really popular is cover 4 because you have a great coverage shell with 8 guys in coverage, but you also have really good run fitments because you have 9 guys in the run game. Both safeties are they might pause a little bit, but they generally come down pretty quickly. And runs on the left side, so this is run fitment to the left and run fitment to the right. You have 9 guys against 7 blockers, so you generally always have the advantage in the run and in the pass. That's why this is a defense that a lot of people just sort of call repeatedly. It does have some weaknesses, but we can get into that later. Tampa 2 has traditionally, or any really cover 2 play has traditionally been really good against stretches, and that's because the outside cornerbacks, so this also has 9 players engaging in the run. The cornerbacks, though, contain the outsides to help stop the stretch. So you can see on a run to the left cornerback is coming down. On a run to the right corner is coming down. So that really forces things to the inside. And then one last common defense is cover 3. This one also, depending on which side which safety comes down, it has a little bit better run fitments on that side. So as you can see, we have 8 people playing the run here, a little bit better on the right side compared to the left side, where, if it were, say, if this tight end were to motion over, the run fits are still basically the same. So he's still containing on that side, but then on this side, you have one extra guy on the right side to help stop the run. So just keep that in mind. Keep this in mind depending on which defense you come out in, to know, if you're a linebacker, which position you're supposed to be, which gap you're supposed to fill, so you don't over pursue or under pursue, or that that way you just know where you really need to be, because the run game can be hard at times to stop especially if someone understands, like, I'm running to a dive to the right, and you're going to over pursue every time. This gap right here will be open. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're calling these plays. So from there, we're going to go into some adjustments. R1 does global adjustments. So that gives you the ability to shift your defense. You can spread them, pinch them, slide them right or left. Spread will spread your defensive line, your linebackers, and your defensive backs. So I'm going to do that now, up on the left joystick. If you do down on the left joystick, everyone will pinch down. After they pitch, though, the shifting right and left only impacts the defensive line and the linebackers. So shift right, shift left, and then square L2 will let you reset the play back to stock. From there, with the R1, you can play the run up the middle, the run left, or the run right, or play the pass. Keep in mind that if you play the run and you call it wrong and it's a pass play, dudes are going to be wide open. So it's slightly risky. If you really need a run stop and you really feel like they're going to run, it's worth it. But if it's not necessarily something you use every play. Guessing pass, though, is something where, let's say it's 3rd and 12 or 3rd and 15 or something like that. If they run a inside zone or any kind of run play, you're not necessarily going to be left out to dry. Your linebackers and your defensive backs will commit to the pass and instantly drop into their zones or stay in coverage, but it's easier to come up and make a tackle than it is to commit to the run and just get burnt deep. Also, if someone's running a read option, the option QB, which is the X button, and the option running back, which is square, tells your edge player who they are to pursue in those cases. So let's say you pick option quarterback, they won't bite on the running back getting the handoff. They'll stay to contain the quarterback. But if you hit option running back, they will crash in to try to tackle the running back. The last option here is quarterback contain, which is R1 and then R1 again. And as you can see, you have the maroon colored contains on the field now, as opposed to their traditional pass rush fits. From there, we have defensive line adjustments, which is left on the D-pad. You can slide your line left, right, spread, pinch, so it's the same as the global adjustments, but specifically now for the defensive line. So if I do left on the D-pad and then right on the left joystick, only the defensive line moves. The linebacker moved a little bit, but that's so they can get in place. You can also spread them, or let's say you want them to go back to normal, you would hit left on the D-pad and then L2, and they go back into place. The other side of this is the point of attack. Basically, you can either slant them to the left, right, outside, or inside. Let's say you hit inside. You can now see that in the play art, the two defensive ends are crashing towards the middle, and the nose tackle will play left or right depending on the play. Same thing if you crash outside. The defensive ends, now you can see they're playing outside, and same thing with the nose tackle. He plays left or right depending on how the play goes. We will reset that back to normal now. And one last thing for that, if you hit left on the D-pad and left again, that will bring you to the quick adjustments, and that lets you set coverages for individual players along the defensive line. So let's say you want your nose tackle, which is triangle, to play a, let's say like a vert hook. You would hit down on the left joystick, and now you can see he's in coverage. So he's going to fall back into coverage to the right side there. If you hit left on the D-pad and L2 though, it will reset it back to the traditional, where he's set up for. The adjustments for linebackers are the same thing, but instead of the left D-pad, you will now use the right D-pad. And they're pretty much the same thing, where you have the shifts to the left, right, spread and pinch. I'm not going to go over those again. They do the same thing where they shift left, right, or outward or crash downward. But the right joystick is a little different. This, you can either blitz all of your linebackers, only your right linebacker, your left linebacker, or put them all into zones. And I'll show you what this does here. So let's say you blitz. I'm going to go back to show the play. None of them, only the left outside linebackers blitzing right now. Let's say I hit right and down. It shows that they're all blitzing now. And this changes, as you can see, it changes the run fitments as well. That's where they're crashing to no matter what, left or right. Where if you switch back to the stock play, see how the run fits are to the right now or to the left. Like I said, changing those fitments can really mess with the run game, and that could cause a lot of problems. Just to go over this real quick is like, let's say for example it's a run to the right, and you blitz everyone and bring everyone down like this, and you're wondering, wow, they ran to the right and they were able to get around me. It could be because you see how your fitments are now. We're going to do this, go back to the play how it was. Even now, the guy that's supposed to be the force, the middle linebacker on the right, he's going to get stuck trying to get out to the outside. So he might never get out there to, contain the running back and force him back inside. So that's something to keep in mind when you, bring guys up to the line of scrimmage like that. So I'm going to repick the play since they were brought up. I don't want them to stay up like that, so you can see everything a little better. On defense, this is the right outside linebacker, and this is the left outside linebacker. And then to rush Watt, who is on the right side of the screen, he's the left outside linebacker. You would have to hit left on the right joystick now, and now he's blitzing. So we're audible back to the base play, and then the one last thing would be right on the right joystick, and up would put them all into zone coverages. This isn't necessarily the best thing because, as you can see, they're just 4 of them are covering the same 2 areas. And the same thing with the defensive line. You can do the quick adjust for the linebackers, which is right on the D-pad and right on the D-pad a second time. And you can pick individual linebackers to then cover, let's say you wanted Watt to do a QB spy, you can then put him specifically in a quarterback spy. So we'll reset the play again, back to, cover 2 man. The next thing would be to do defensive back adjustments. So defensive line is left on the D-pad, linebackers are right on the D-pad, defensive backs are triangle. This brings up coverage adjustments. This lets you do give cushion, which is similar to the spread in the global adjustments. Press, which would be the same as the pinch in the global adjustments. Show blitz is something different where it makes it look like you're blitzing. It's pretty self-explanatory, so I'll show that to you now. See how everyone comes up, it looks like it's zero coverage, even though, the 2 guys are still deep. Or let's set the play back. If we do base the line is not playing up over top of your man necessarily. It's just, how the formation is in the picture, that's how they're going to be in coverage. So now you can see, even though it's cover 2 man, normally the corners are down on the wide receivers. This just sets them to make it look like it's the base play in the playbook without any kind of, sliding to being over top of who they need to be over top of. So when you go, out of baseline, you hit it again. Now they'll go back to how they are for the specific play. From there, you can go into the coverage adjustments. The outside and inside are, let's say it's inside, you'll see that the cornerbacks will slide. We'll do outside first because they're already inside. So let's say we do triangle right on the joystick. You can see they slid out. So like the guy over top of Juju Smith-Schuster is now farther outside. If you do inside, now he's way inside of him. Same with over top and underneath. This will be for how the coverage is. So let's say you pick over top. One thing, so I'm going to switch to zone coverage here for this. If you play underneath coverage, those purples will go from purple to light blue because they are now going to play underneath. So they're playing like the shorter routes, they're playing closer to the line of scrimmage. There's a difference between the blues and purples, and we'll have to get into that in another video, but it makes its change so that they play the flats instead of playing, instead of playing back to forward, they're playing just forward the whole time. So if you hit triangle underneath, you see now they're in hard flats. Once you switch from purples to blues, you can't switch back to purple. So if you hit triangle cover over top, they will now be in light blues, but they're playing cloud flats, which again, those play back to front. So they'll drop back first and then they'll play the flats. The last couple things here are play sticks. This is one that I feel is very important. Let's say you're in cover 2. Easy. You will have both light blues and all 3 yellows playing at the first down marker. So right now it would be the 20-yard line. On a pass play, for example, you would have basically a straight line with those 5 guys across the 20-yard line. Whereas normally they would play, wherever their zones are supposed to be. So some might play, 2 or 3 yards off the line of scrimmage. Some might drop back. The mid-read would cover whoever's running deep down the middle of the field. This is really good on especially if it's like 3rd and long, say 3rd and 15. It'll really help keep everyone in front of the first down marker. And if they try to do a smart route to the first down marker, they'll be sitting there waiting for it. If they try to do something where it's, it's not necessarily the greatest thing if it's, say, 3rd and 2, though, and, you play sticks, and it's 2 yards, and they do just a 10-yard curl route, they'll be behind the coverage, and it'll be pretty open. So it's a situational thing. If they're doing drags and it's 3rd and 2 or 3 or 5 or something like that, and you know they're going to do drags, it would be real good because then they're going to cover that, right at that specific yard marker. Man align is the opposite of base align. So if you base align, it'll put your guys in the formation of what it looks like in the picture. If you man align, it'll go back to what the play is, how the play is stock. One more thing or I guess two more things to go over would be individual coverage. If you hit X on that, you can pick a specific wide receiver. So let's say someone's been targeting Juju Smith-Schuster and you hit square on him. So you hit triangle, now you hit square. You can then do specific coverage on that one person. And this is something I do a lot since I play a lot of man coverage. So I can shade him inside specifically. I can shade him to the right. I can shade him to the left. Actually, let me go back to the base play. Triangle X square. I can now shade him to the left. Triangle X square. I can shade him to the right. I can play back on that one specific guy. I can press that one specific guy. Or let's say, for example, it's someone they target a bunch. You can spotlight them. And what spotlight does is, let's say 2 people are in someone's zone coverage area, they will target this guy a little more. They'll like shade a little bit more towards him. So let's say we pick cover 3 sky. Let's say he ended up somewhere where he ended up with a route that was like right in here. If he shaded all, this yellow, this purple, and the blue will stay on him a little bit longer, just to give him that extra attention. That's what that spotlight does, is give extra attention to that receiver. And just to show you one more time from the shading and the press coverage and the back coverage individually. So you can see now cover 3, everyone's off a little bit. If we do that again, triangle X square, you can press him specifically. Triangle X square, you can shade him inside. Triangle X square, shade him outside. It doesn't do too much in zone necessarily. It's more for the shading inside and outside is more for man. Triangle X square, and then you can back off again. And now you'll see he's even further back than the stock coverage. So, and finally, we'll go back to the traditional defense we were in again. You can do coverage adjustments for your individual defensive players in the defensive backfield. So that would be triangle, triangle, and then you can pick square, triangle, X circle. So we're in man coverage. If we do triangle, triangle, square, we can now put that cornerback in, whatever coverage we would like him to be in, whether it be outside thirds. We'll just show that to show you what it looks like now. So now he's in that, 1/3 deep blue, or you can do triangle, triangle, square, hard flat. So now he's just going to play zone down there. And as for coverage, that's about, all the adjustments, that's about it. There's a lot of things you can do in practice to sort of, get used to the buttons and, sort of get accustomed to making these adjustments pretty quickly, because a lot of times, I got this controller up here to show the adjustments I want to make. I can go through, a lot of these adjustments really quickly without even having to think about them. So like I can pinch my D-line, pinch linebackers, press, shade off, or do, individual coverage, different things like that. So it's just a matter of getting the hang of the button so that you can do it pretty quickly before the snap.